Alright guys, so we're back and now we're just going to crumb coat the cake. I don't know how many inches this is. This cake is 12 inches. And it's going to be 2 of these. So 2 layers, 12 inches. And I'm just using store-bought icing. I don't really like the whipped, but I'm going to use this for my crumb coat. So I'm just going to plop it on here. This cake layer is cold, by the way. The best way to work with a crumb coat, actually with, you know, any cake that you're icing, the best way to do it is to start with a cold cake. And the reason you do that is because it keeps the crumbs at a minimum. And another smart way to do this would have been to put the cut side down, but I didn't do that, so that's okay. But you're just gonna, basically you just want a thin coat of icing just to seal in the crumbs. You see how those crumbs are coming up on the knife? And you don't want those in your final layer of icing. Our final layer is going to be yellow. So for now, this is fine and it's not a big deal, but you just want a very, very thin layer of icing. And it doesn't matter if it drops down the sides. It's not a big deal. But you want it all the way to the edge. And you can see how it picks up those crumbs. And if this was our final coat, that would look not good. So, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to do a little bit thicker layer in between, because these are going to be our in between. It's going to be our layer. It's going to be the icing in between the layers. Did I mention I wasn't feeling well? That's part of the reason I'm scatterbrained, so just overlook me. But anyway, we're just going to smooth that out. And it doesn't matter how this looks right now. One, because it's going to be covered up anyway when we lay the second layer on it. But you do want it to the edge. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab our second cake layer. Because I'm going to be smart about it this time, we're just going to flip this right on top, so that way now you can see that when we ice it, which we're going to go ahead and do, you won't have all the crumbs in it. So we're going to do the thin coat, as I said, all the way around this entire cake, and then we are going to pop it in the refrigerator or freezer, whatever best works for you. I'm putting it in the fridge, and we're going to let it we're going to let the icing harden a bit. So let's just dump it all on there. Start in the center and work your way out. Now see how I have no crumbs? Again, that's because I used the bottom of the cake. Makes it clear. But if you get crumbs, it's okay. You won't see them when we get through. Okay, so very thin layer. Then we're going to work on the bottom. We want this to be even, and we'll even it up in a bit. But right now, we're going to go ahead and just get some icing. Around the sides. And you're going to pick up some crumbs along the edges, but again, it's no big deal. Because you won't see them. Alright, so again, I don't want to make this a big long video, so I'm going to go ahead and cut you guys off, and then once I get the entire thing crumb coated, I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Okay guys, so that's crumb coated, just a real thin layer. I know the cake is showing through, that's perfectly fine. It's just to seal in the crumbs. And now we're going to go from here. We're going to throw this in the fridge, and for, I don't know, about maybe, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes, an hour. And then we're going to come back. We're going to put on our pale yellow icing and then on to the decoration. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, so the cakes come out of the fridge about an hour later, and you can see that that the icing has firmed up a bit. It's not as soft as it was, and that's what we're looking for. So now I've just taken store-bought white icing, and I've tinted it yellow, a pale yellow, just so that we can do the background for the leopard. And I don't know if you can see that a little better, but it's kind of a pale yellow. Anyway, there's 4 cans here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of plop it on there. We're gonna go ahead and ice the sides first. I'm using a smaller spatula because I want it to be more of a rough texture. Okay, I don't want it nice and smooth because I want it to kind of look like fur. And we're just going to do, we want a thick coat though. Okay, so you just want to go around it, and you want to cover all of it. This is our base coat, it's our final coat, so we want to make sure that we cover the entire cake with it, with the yellow. Okay, so go entirely around the edge of the cake. Okay. Keep going. And I'll come back when I have it all the way around. Alright guys, so I have ice around the edge of the entire cake. This is a huge cake, so I'm having problems turning it. And I kind of prefer not to have it on the turning board right now. I like to have a little more control. So anyway, now I'm just going to do the top. And this leopard is great because, like I said, the icing doesn't have to be smooth. And if you ice a lot of cakes, you know that that's generally, you know, it can be a tedious part. So we don't have to worry about that. You always want to have more icing than you need. Trust me, you do not want to skimp. If you're making this for looks, you definitely don't want to skimp. Or if you're making it for someone else, you don't want to. It's a lot of work. And believe it or not, more icing, the better, because it makes it look a lot prettier. It really makes a difference on how good this cake looks. Okay, so we're just gonna start in the middle and spread it out a bit. And that kind of tells me how much more of it I need. We're going to add some more on. And it's taken me 4. And 4 is just about going to do this, believe it or not. So, 4 cans. You can make your icing or you can use store-bought. Store-bought's a little easier, so that's what I've done. Okay, now if you remember, earlier we were talking about the crumbs. You can see that as I'm icing this cake, I'm not having to worry about crumbs at all. Another trick you want to use when you do that is you want to make sure that the icing that you're using to do your crumb coat is completely separate from the icing you're going to use to do your final base or your final coat, because you will get crumbs in it as well. You want to keep it separate. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this on here, and I'm going to get this finished up, and I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. Okay guys, so I finished icing the cake, and I just want it to look like little tufts of hair, so I just kind of touched down on it just to bring it up a bit. And if I don't like that, I can always go back and fix it. But like I said, it's going to be a leopard print, so I think this should be okay. But anyway, what you want to do is go ahead and pull out your wax paper. I didn't show you guys how to prepare the board, but what you do is you basically lay your wax paper underneath the bottom layer of cake. And you want to go ahead and pull it out prior to putting it in the refrigerator. After your last coat of icing is on, before the decoration go on. So this is the last coat of icing. Now we're going to basically put it in the fridge, let it set up a minute, and then we're going to put the fondant on. So go ahead and pull out your wax paper. Now what you want to be careful of is when you put these wax paper sheets under your cake, you don't want to put it too far under your cake, because you might have a really hard time pulling it out. And you can see that it drags off part of the icing, but that's fine because you can see that the board is clean, and that's the whole purpose of having the wax paper down. But you can also see it's very clean there at the edge. You can see a little bit underneath, but that's okay. We're just going to we're going to make fondant balls, and we're going to put those around the cake. Actually, I already showed you guys how to make those. So those are all drying. Everything is ready to go. We're going to throw this in the refrigerator and let it chill for a minute, and then we'll be back and get ready to put the fondant on. Okay, so now I've just taken the larger black fondant balls, and I have just put a border around the bottom of the cake all the way around, and I've just pressed those into the cake. Okay, so now I want the smaller ones that I made earlier. You can see those. And I am going to put those right on the top edge, all the way around the cake. We actually want to go ahead and apply these prior to putting the cake back in the fridge, because we want the fondant to stick into the icing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you just real quickly. I'm just placing these right along the edge into the fondant. So I'm going to go ahead and get that going and finish up a little more and we'll be back. Okay, so I have placed the fondant all the way around the top and all the way around the bottom, and next I'm going to go ahead and place the rest of the decoration and then we'll come back. Okay guys, so the leopard print cake is finished, and we just took the little ones that we made, put the balls around the top and the bottom. There was a chocolate rose for Valentine's Day. Picked that up, put that around the edge. We pushed our little hearts all the way down because the center heart was too heavy and wouldn't stand. So it's just easier to push all the little hearts, or to push all the hearts into the icing, just to give it a little bit more stability. We don't want it falling apart. And then the S, you can see, is just pushed down into the icing, and then the leopard spots. Just to kind of give you a quick little. Now there's little black pieces of fondant that was added just to kind of give it a little bit more definition, make it look a little bit more leopardy. But get a stable view. But there it is, the finished leopard cake. Hope you enjoy it, Alicia's mom. Bye. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching.